Hello and welcome back to the channel. Hey, if you're thinking about becoming a Squarespace freelancer or a web designer in general, it's good to understand the different roles that can be played for you as a freelancer, different things you can do. You could become a UX designer, you could become a web developer, you could become a graphic designer. So we're gonna break down those different roles, about 5 or 6 different roles today, and give you an idea of what that actually looks like in a final product. Before I go any further, if you get value from this video as you're watching it, just hit that like button. It lets me know that you got value from this content. All right, let's hop in. The reason I think it's important to know this as you begin is not so you try to perfect exactly what role you're gonna do, because as you freelance, you might just have to take whatever jobs that come. So if you're just starting out, this video will help guide you in understanding the different roles that you could take on as a freelancer, right? I would say don't overly get critical about this and say, I am only this or I'm only that, unless you're really good at it. But in the beginning, it'll give you a sense of the different components that you could attach yourself to and the different sides of developing a website, going from beginning to end, where you can become an expert in the process. I heard this quote one time and it was so valuable for me. It's really easy to get what you want. It's really hard to know what you want. And so as we break down these 5 roles right now, I want you to think about which ones you actually like the most. And if you're looking to get started as a freelancer, I have a video that talks about going from 0 to 5K a month on the side. You could keep your corporate job on the side on how to develop websites on the side to make an extra 5K a month. So make sure you check out my channel to see that video as well. All right, so here we go. First role I want to cover is graphic design. Graphic design is designing all the elements of, say, the brand, the fonts, graphics on the websites like icons or animations or illustrations. Even the word animation might fall into another category, but overall graphic design is all those visual elements. And in a moment, we're gonna go through a website and break down all of these so you have a clear sense of what they are, but I wanna give you the 5 roles first. The second one is kind of a mix of 2 separate roles that can be seen as the same and can be seen as different, depending on who you're talking to, which is this: website designer or UX UI designer. Now, there's a ton of definitions for all of this, and somebody might say it's totally different and all these different things, but when it comes to UX design and website designer, they sometimes fall into the same categories. Let me explain. So a website designer is the person who designs the different pages of the website. So say you have 3 sections for your homepage, well, they actually design those 3 sections, where there's text on one side, image on another, where there's a section of an icon plus text, or there's a section of 3 icons plus 3 sections of text. That is a website designer or UX designer. The UX designer is a more fancy term, and often I hear people say that they want to become UX designers and then design on, say, Squarespace or design on Webflow, which is totally viable. It's clear to understand what you actually want though. And I'll get a little bit deeper into this once I cover all 5, but there's this idea sometimes that is running around right now that I kind of want to just talk about. And if you're watching this video right now and you say, I want to become a UX designer, but maybe what you really want is to be a freelancer, or maybe what you really want is to be a graphic designer. So it's important to know the differences as we break them down. Okay, so once we get into the website, I'll break that down a little bit further. But for now, let's talk about the third one, which is a website developer. Now you may say, what's the difference between a website designer and a website developer? They can be the same, but at times, especially if you call it a UX designer and a web developer, the UX designer might use a tool like Figma or Sketch to design mock-ups of the website. And then a developer would actually develop the website with code. So that's the main difference there. Often those roles, if you're talking about a small business hiring someone to do their website for less than $5,000, those roles are all combined. And actually a lot of the roles are combined. But when you're talking about high-end websites, there's often a UX designer who designs the actual wireframes. And then from there, there's a developer who will take those wireframes and develop it with code. The developer's job is to make it beautiful, functional, and also make sure it's responsive. Fourth, and this is kind of a mix of the second one a little bit, but the fourth one is a designer, which I would also call a consultant, which I would also call a sales expert. Some of you might just be really good at sales calls. Some of you might just be really good at selling the product and the service. You're not necessarily the best website designer or the web developer, but you have a good design eye and you're good with talking to people. So there's 3 roles that I'm kind of mixing into one, but this is more of I think overall the bigger term would be consultant. So if you are an overall designer or you want to give strategy, that really falls into a different role than somebody who's sitting there and developing a website with code. Developing a website with code is very technical. Being a strategist is much more high level. So those differences are important to bring out here. And the 5th one is going to be someone who actually creates the copy for the website. So content creator, you could say, but copywriter is probably the most official term. Again, if you're talking to a small business who's trying to hire someone for 3, 4, 5K for a website, often they want you to do all 5 of those. And as you begin, it's actually quite natural and good that you do all 5 of those in some form or fashion, because then you understand what's needed to bring it to life. It's really difficult when you have a website developer who's never done any other component of the process start to develop a site for wireframes and they don't really understand why the wireframes look the way they do. Same goes for if you write really good copy, but you write paragraphs long. Copy for websites is often just 2 or 3 sentences. The more text, the harder it is to read, the less people read it. So it's important to understand how all these pieces play together. And again, you don't necessarily need to start out where you absolutely love, but if you know you really like graphic design, but you become a website freelancer, you start building websites, and then you go from there to get closer and closer to graphic design, that's a good option. If you start with graphic design, that's an even better option. But all of these are opportunities that you could take on for small businesses, especially if a small business is looking for you to do a specific task. It often is the best way to get you in the door to start the process. What do I mean? If they need a website and you think they need a logo, well, probably they'll ask you to do the website and include the logo instead of just doing the logo. If they know they need a logo, that's a different story. But oftentimes, if they have a problem, they want a solution to that problem. And then also around that, you could bring in other components of the process. Okay, so let's take a look at a live site now. So what you're taking a look at here is a beautiful website. Now, I have no attribution to the site. I just literally saw this site, thought it was gorgeous. I think it's a great starting example for us. So the first thing I want to point out, you see this demand curve right here. This is a logo. This is a graphic designer designing this. The graphic designer also most likely decided on the font. So here, this is, I believe, a DM serifs font, and then this is a font called Inter. Both Google fonts, they go really nicely together. As you could also see, this is like a light grayish blue color, and this is closer to a full black. Well, those are also decided by the graphic designer. Finally, you'll see this little icon here, the way it's a blue border around the white logo. Well, that is also done by the graphic designer. So those specific pieces are designed by the graphic designer. And then when we look at the actual layout of this page, the way the navigation sits when you scroll, the way the menu looks, all these little items are done by the second role, a website designer or a UX designer. They're the ones who decide how this lays out, how much spacing is on each side of this, what this looks like, and overall this little arrow and all these sections here. They're the ones who lay out all this content. Now, here's a good mix. This section here is a mix of the first 3 roles. Number 1, graphic design. Well, this is a very visual element. So possibly the UX designer, website designer thought of this, but at the same time, the graphic designer could have helped. Then the actual website designer said, hey, let's add it to the second section of the page. and show it like this. So the website developer is the one who actually put this on the page. Now, one thing I'm gonna call out, love to you guys, Demand Curve. This is all respect. I just realized this is actually an image. Technically, you do not want things like this to show up as images. You don't want text to show up as images on your website. That's for accessibility issues, but also because it just is more ideal that it's actual text. Also for SEO, it's important that it's actual text. So in this case, they did this because this is really hard to develop and make perfect on a website, especially when you consider that it has to be mobile responsive as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they did this on mobile as well. But for now, let's continue. Oh, and a final note on this. Because it's an image, the graphic designer or possibly the UX website designer created this graphic in, say, again, a Figma, a Sketch, Illustrator, Photoshop, whatever tool they prefer. And then we could keep going. You could see here, this breakdown is very much so a UX designer who said, hey, we have, let's see, 4 steps in this process. How do we show this in an easy way for people to understand? Well, let's include, first of all, this headline text, so it's easy to read with a bit of description text below it, this little icon, and then this little line that shows that it's continuing as you scroll down. And then we'll put visual elements with each section so it's very clear to see what is with what and what we're discussing in each point. Okay, cool. So now you have these 4 sections. It breaks down really nice. If it was 3, it would probably go across the page, but the fact that there's 4, they took it down the page, which is really nice. So the little rocket ship, graphic designer, the actual layout of this page is going to be the website designer, and then making this page is the website developer. So I can continue and break this down further, but let's talk about number 4 and number 5. What about all the website copy, number 5? Well, somebody had to write this. And for a website that looks this nice, that is offering a premium product, that probably has hundreds, if not thousands of students, I would imagine that they had copywriters create the content for every single section. So these headlines, the buttons, the text here, all of it. Everything is written by copywriters. Then from there, this is a testimonial section. Now we'll break down what you'll learn, real world growth fundamentals, learn the proper frameworks for product positioning, customer acquisition, conversion rate optimization, virality, and more. So I imagine a copywriter wrote all of this. Okay, so in the middle of the page, they decide to have a very big, clear call to action. Grow your company with us, talk with us, get course sample, awesome. And then they continue. This is a pretty long homepage, landing page, but they also have it set up where if I click pricing, I actually stay on this homepage. I don't go anywhere else. So I actually just scroll down right now, just about a section or two. So everything is built on this homepage, which is really nice. There's a lot of content here to look at. Now, let's just talk about the 4th role because I can't really show it here. Let's say Demand Curve, let me scroll to the top. They could probably do this in-house, but let's say Demand Curve wanted to hire an agency. Well, they would probably get on a call with a sales expert who would then walk them through and say, yeah, we could design your website. We could write the copy. We could do the graphic design. Are you looking for a new logo? Are you looking for a new brand? We could do all of that and then scope the project out from strategy, website design to website development, copywriting, and launch, and then possibly even maintenance. So a sales expert, a consultant, a strategist, a design strategist, they would come in and walk through the whole process with the potential client. So if you're just starting out, don't let this get complicated and don't let this frighten you. You're just starting out, it's fine. Most roles that you take on, you'll probably do about 3 of these roles or more. So when I started out, I would do website design, website development, and also the sales consultant expert person. I would do all 3 of those roles. Now, when it came to website copy, most of the time I tried to avoid that because it could just complicate the process with a small business that I don't know so much about. And also graphic design, I would love to add graphic design to projects, but I would definitely scope it into the project above and beyond. So I would charge more for any graphic design and be very clear about what is included in the project. And so with all this said, you could test it. You could get in there, do different roles, As you find what you love, you could further develop that level of expertise. And as you become an expert in that, you could charge more for it. So if you become really good at branding, putting together fonts and logos and graphics and designing feel for the brand, well, that's an amazing skill set that people are willing to pay good money for. Same with website design. If you could lay out pages like this and really get things precise and crisp and clean, just beautifully laid out in a modern way, people will pay good money for that. If you really like code and you want to figure out the best ways to develop pages so they look good on desktops, iPads, and phones, well, people pay good money for that. Or if you're really good at copywriting and you want to develop that further and help people land sales on their website, help businesses land sales on their website, you could go for that as well. And finally, the sales call is one of the most important aspects of this. If you can't handle a sales call well, you won't get paid well, projects won't go well, things will get complicated, you'll say yes to things you should say no to. All of those things are so important. And so if you develop that skill set, that could be part of your work as well. And you could actually outsource the work to a website designer or a website developer or whatever that may be. Do you have any other questions? If you do, drop them in the comments below. I would love to get back to you, especially if you are starting out. And I help Squarespace designers get up and running, launched from corporate career to side hustle, and if they want to go freelance, to go freelance. With that, if you got value from today's video, hit that like button. And if you hit that subscribe, you will get new content just like this every single week. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.